Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by to check out the latest from Sailing Emerald Steel. This video is going to be about anchor windlasses. Because they're such an important part of gear on board a sailboat and they can be rather expensive, we're going to share with you our thoughts on what we think is important in an anchor windlass. And before we get started, we'd like to thank all of you once again for all of your excellent comments and all the thumbs up on our last video.
So in the beginning, when we launched our boat, there were so many things we needed for it. So anchor windlass was really far down the down the list.
Yes.
We had to lift our anchor by hand, and because we had a half-inch chain and a 75-pound CQR, it was very difficult to lift it up. But we didn't really have any options, so we had to do what's got to be done.
Jules has a strong back.
Yeah, I was quite a bit younger. If you anchor, say, on 20 feet of water, and you're lifting, say, 3/8 of an inch of chain, which is maybe 2 pounds a foot, this is not so heavy because 20 feet of a chain, it's only 60 pounds. But if you anchor, say, in 40-50 feet of water, and your chain in our case is 3 pounds a foot, suddenly you're talking about 150 pounds. Plus the anchor, now you're talking about over 200 pounds. So it's get to be very hard to lift it, and also it's very dangerous because you handle a heavy chain with your hands, so it's easy to get injured. As many times in the past, things just happened to us. A friend of ours who had a 36-foot sea beach, he stopped by our boat one day and he said to us, "Hey Jules, you know, I circumnavigate the globe a couple of times and I use my manual windlass, and I'm not getting any younger, so I decided to change it for electric windlass. So you know what? I will give you my old windlass for a price of removing it." So naturally I could not believe it. I'm going to get a nice manual windlass for a price of a little labor.
And we always loved that windlass too.
Yeah.
It was very...
So we went to his boat to help him take the old windlass off. Now his old windlass, as you see here in the picture, was an old 1927 Wilbo, which stands for Wilmington Boat Works, and it's all bronze. The only problem with it was that it had 2 drums for a rope, did not have a gypsy, so as was a big help to us at the time, the problem was this. Then to retrieve the chain, you had to wrap a chain twice around the drum, and then if you were, say, in 20 feet of water, again it works decent, but if you got to a little deeper water, chain became too heavy, hanging down, so it would slip. That's the only way it was able to lift the anchor is by Susan tailing it. So she had to sit in the front of a cabin, grab the end of a chain. As I was winching it up, she was pulling on it so it would not slip. A short while she would end up with a big pile of chain by her, so you would have to stop, put all the chain down in a hold, and then repeat the process.
It was a pain.
Yeah. Here's another story I would like to share with you. We were anchoring in Catalina Harbor, and all the good places were taken by the moorings, so we had to anchor in a deeper water. It was about 50 feet of water. And next to us, good-sized powerboat dropped the anchor. So when the time came for us to leave, as I was winching a chain, I stopped and took a break. And here a guy in that powerboat in front of me, we were pretty close already. He came out, he had one of those big glass doors in his yacht. He came out with
It was big, fancy.
He came out with a cup of coffee, and he had a kind of like a
smoking jacket
on him.
Bathrobe.
And he stand and watching me. After a while, he says, "Looks like a lot of hard work." That's all I needed to heard down when I'm working with my windlass. So I look at
Jules has sweat off his brow. He's lifting up the window.
So I look at him and I says, "You know, you probably think making love to your wife is hard work." When he heard that, he turned around, went inside his boat, never showed up again. So anyway, he probably learned it's not smart to be smart as talking to somebody.
To a real sailor.
Always you have to make a decision if you want to spend money for new equipment or go cruising, and we always choose to go cruising instead of wait. Because when you wait till you have everything just the way you want it,
You may never go.
you, like most people, never end up to going. And naturally we would like to go cruising, so we went to Hawaii with our windlass as we had. Once we got to Hawaii, very soon we learned that it is not good enough, even with a manual windlass, to work without a gypsy. So the idea was, least we have to get a gypsy for our windlass.
Yeah.
Now, because our windlass is so old, has an 1.5 inch solid bronze shaft,
Right.
it was not so easy to find a gypsy to fit on it. So I heard about a place in Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
what was the name?
Lunenburg Foundry. They made custom wildcats for windlasses.
And also they build windlasses for big fishing boats, really a kind of old-fashioned kind. We sent them a letter, asked them that we could get our gypsy made for our windlass. So the guy wrote me a letter back and says, if you send me a foot of your chain, we will make you a gypsy. And the price was, if I remember right, about $275 US.
Solid bronze. Heavy duty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
solid bronze, as you can see here in the picture. And did not have a hole in the middle, was not bored. So they told me I have to do it myself to fit my windlass. So again, when we were in Lahaina, I found a machinist who machined a hole for my windlass. So now we had a manual windlass which worked excellent also for our chain, because finally the chain was not slipping any longer. But after a while, like everybody else, gets a little bit lazier. We decided it would be nice to have a power windlass. When we were in Friday Harbor and we were anchoring, we had out about 280 feet of chain. And to lift 280 feet of chain, it took about, I would say, a good 20 minutes to half an hour.
The windlass was super strong, but it was very slow in retrieving.
Yes. It was a dual action winch, but still each stroke it would take about 5 inches or 6 inches of chain, so it took a long time. We found out that if it was a strong blow, it was difficult to be on the front of a pitching deck, try to lift your anchor while
Trying to keep off the lee shore.
yeah, try to keep off the lee shore. So we decided that we would like to have a power windlass. But again, we were looking for a few things which was very important to us. Number one, we would like to keep a windlass which goes with our boat style, that means old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Second one is they would have to have still a manual option.
Right.
Third thing was to be able to fix if something goes wrong with a windlass. And finally, we want to have a dependable power windlass, and we were leaning towards hydraulic instead of electric, because electric windlass, although they are good, they consume a lot of power, and they also overheat very fast, and also you have to
run a big, thick, heavy cable from your batteries to the front of the boat.
And they're not as dependable as a hydraulic, that is for sure. Because I watch other people who, when they are lifting an anchor, they run a windlass for a while, then they stop, they have to wait a little bit, and they repeat the same thing, especially when they have a heavier chain and lots of the chain outside. Now, I also like to have a windlass which you can use and is strong enough to bring your boat towards the anchor. Now, a lot of people will tell you, why don't you just power your boat towards the anchor so the windlass doesn't have to work so hard. But experience shows that it is not always that easy. If you have a strong wind against you, if you put a boat into gear, especially if you're by yourself, how many RPMs you're going to put on? If you don't put enough, she's not going to help you much. If you put too much, very soon you're going to overshot your anchor. And if you know well, once the chain gets underneath you, it also might be scratching your hull. And then, even worse than that, is if you run and shut the engine off, suddenly your boat gets hit by the wind and she goes very fast back on the chain, and it's tremendous loads put on your bow roller and overall your anchor gear.
And your windlass too when you're lifting up the...
And we learned that it would be nice to have a power windlass which be able to pull your boat towards the anchor, say at 35, 40 knots of wind. For those people who have no problem with the money, I guess they can buy whatever they want, but we are really cruisers on a budget. Now here is a story I'd like to relate to you what happened. It actually happened in San Diego Bay. We were anchoring Loretta Bay, and next to us there was a power boat, about 65-footer. The young guys and girls was on the boat, say around 25, 30 years old. A big party all weekend long, drinking, singing, loud music. But came Sunday afternoon, they decide to leave. They start lifting at the anchor, and suddenly windlass stopped working. As the windlass stopped working, We heard some cursing, and then just general, they were
mayhem on the foredeck.
debating what the hell to do next. So after a while they decided to lift the chain by hand. Now, by observing them, you could tell they were novices. So a couple of young guys, strong guys, and they started lifting by hand. And while they were lifting, the guy at the steering was power forward. Now naturally, once the boat went over the anchor, chain got tight and pulled out of the hands, and all the chain went out again. It's been about an hour time they were screwing around with that. So after they tried like 2-3 times, they decided to give up on it, and they were sitting around discussing what to do. I telling Susan, you know, Susan, I gotta go help those poor guys. They know what the hell to do.
So Captain Jules decides to row over and give him a hand.
So I went there with a rowing.
With a bunch of girls in bikinis too, no less.
I went there rowing there with my dinghy to the boat. As I got to the boat, about the same time another boater came with his dinghy there, and as I was telling to the owner of the yacht, then would you like me to help you? The other man interjected and he says, why don't you just drop all the chain in the water, and this way you can put a buoy on it, go back to marina, have your windlass fixed, and then you can come back, pick up your anchor chain. But I guess the man didn't like that idea because the chain was expensive, the anchor was expensive, and he just didn't feel right to leaving it down. So I told him, well, listen, you gotta make a decision, or you listen to him or you listen to me. So he decided that he'd rather listen to me. So I went up on a boat. I told the guy at the helm, now listen good to me, do exactly as I tell you because I don't want to lose my fingers. So I start pulling a chain up, and once I knew that anchor is underneath us, I told him to stop. At that time I took the chain, I wrapped around the cleat, and then I told him, okay, power slowly forward. Naturally, as he powered slowly forward, anchor broke loose, so I told him to stop, and then a young man who was next to me, I said, hey, give me a hand. We lift it up. All the people on the boat gave me a big applause. They all thanked me, then I helped them, and the man was want to pay me for helping him. I told him, no, just help somebody else down the road if they need it. And as I was rowing back to my boat, believe it or not, a couple of the boat says to me that, hey, thanks very much, you just ruined our entertainment for a day. Because they were enjoying all these young girls running around with the bikinis. And
the debacle.
And when I went there to help them, naturally, when they got unstuck, they were able to leave. I show it to you several things. One, you should understand about the anchor. And you cannot lift the anchor by hand and then expect to break loose by holding the chain in your hands, because you just do not have that kind of strength. So once you take all the scope out, you should tie off your chain in a strong point. Yeah,
it's important to have a good strong point, because this boat had like one very small cleat on the foredeck and that was it.
So what happened is his anchor windlass, although was very strong, very expensive, nice and shiny, something happened with his gears, got stuck, and he was unable to make it work again. So that is why it's very important when you're looking for a windlass, try to find one which is easy to fix it. So when we made a decision to convert our own windlass to a hydraulic windlass, reason was simple. It was a kind of windlass look-wise which go along with our boat.
It was super strong as a manual windlass and never ever let us down.
Yeah. And plus we could build that hydraulic as a strong pretty much as we like, and also there's nothing could go wrong with that which a hammer and a screwdriver wouldn't fix. So that was an important part.
And now Jules is going into his engineering mode to try to figure out how we can keep it manual and also make it hydraulic.
So after looking for all the parts like a hydraulic motor, a hydraulic pump, electric motor to run a hydraulic pump, it came to be about $1,600, $1,600 or $1,700 total price, as you see here. And I installed a chain sprocket and also a 3/8 inch gypsy, so I could have it for my secondary anchor. And then I installed a hydraulic motor. I ran the hoses downstairs, and I installed a hydraulic pump underneath our V-bird in the front of the boat. It has a little reservoir for oil, has a filter for oil, and that pump is run by 2 horsepower electric motor, which runs from our generator.
Here's the windlass control lever and the box we built to cover it. We also built a fiberglass cover for the chain and sprocket.
My old windlass, which used to be on manual only, and I converted it into hydraulic. So it has a 2 tons lifting power. And not going very fast, only about 28 feet a minute. But it's plenty for us. It works very good. Here's my controlling the hydraulic motor.
Why are you lifting it up manually?
I decided I need a little exercise. And the depth here is only 20 feet, so I got about 70 feet of chain out, which is not that much. Beautiful day.
And the manual works just as good as power, right?
It's much more dependable. With all the gearing on it, has a very strong pull.
So, in conclusion, the main reason why we decided to convert our windlass to hydraulic was because of cost. It's quite a bit cheaper to build our own rather than buy a new one. Secondly, it's much easier to repair and maintain. Third, we liked the way it worked manually, and we wanted to keep that. And finally, we wanted to keep it in character with our boat. So, if you're in the market for a new windlass, here are a few points that we think are important. First of all, you should buy from a company that you know is reputable and has an excellent reputation for building strong and dependable windlasses with good customer service. Make sure you get a gypsy that is the right size for the chain you're going to be using. Number 2, make sure you get a windlass that's strong enough for the gear that you're going to be lifting up. Don't fall into the trap of buying something that's undersized. Number 3, make sure that it has a manual option that's usable in all kind of conditions. Number 4, choose strength over speed. Number 5, make sure in your installation that you use strong backup plates because the windlass puts a tremendous strain on your foredeck.
And there is one other thing which is to remember, that if you have an electric windlass, remember that when a windlass is under heavy strain, it draws a lot of amperage. And the amperage you're talking about much larger than the amount of your alternator puts in to your battery when your engine is running. So remember, when you have to use your windlass for a longer period of time, don't forget about load and the battery, because it's very, very easy to deplete your battery.
So in the next video, we're going to be talking about our hookah dive system that we have aboard Emerald Steel. It comes in really handy when you have to work on your bottom. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a comment and a thumb up. And before we leave, we'd like to once again thank all of you who support our channel through Patreon and PayPal. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye-bye.